Hello everyone, figured I would put together a quick video. We're going to do some fast troubleshooting. We've had some new equipment recently released, a new board, control board, a new laser, some new wiring, and we've had some issues with them being sent not being configured correctly. Some of them even were missing cables, and unfortunately, you know, we're trying to do the best we can to keep up with that, and so I figured I would put a quick troubleshooting video together. I'm going to cover just real quick on all of these. I'm going to touch on the 308 wiring. If your X-axis, which is your left and right, isn't working, if it's backwards, same thing with the Y-axis, the new 40-watt wiring, and a lot of times if you have an issue with the spindle coming on. And I'm going to put in the description a minute marker so that you can just hop to the sections that you want to get to. So let's get at it. Just real quick, I'm going to move you over. Let me see here. You can see my, I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between my machine and my screen and myself. So we're going to go through this and we're going to get you up and running in no time. So here is a wiring diagram of the board that you probably got in your manual, and I have it on the screen, the 3018. And I'm going to actually turn on the camera for the laser, and so that you can see what I have here. So right now it's backwards, you're looking at the back of it, and I want you to note it does say Z motor, Y motor, X motor. The middle here is your spindle, and the red is for your laser. So always remember, when you're looking at the front of your machine, this is your Y motor, this is your X motor, and this is your Z motor. Your Z motor makes your spindle go up and down, that's your Z axis. Your X motor makes your spindle go left and right, so that is your X axis. And the Y motor makes the bed go back and forth. So you want to definitely double check your settings, or your wiring. So the Z motor right here, we're going to take the wire, we're going to have the little pieces up, and of course I have mine all pretty cleaned, so let me just make sure I'm doing the right one here. This one is my Y motor, and that's your next one is the Y. We're going to push that in, and then this one is my X motor, as you can see here, and it does say X motor. So if you're not positive and you're having your machine run in the wrong directions and so forth, I recommend you just turn this around, just double check your wiring. That's all you got to do is just pull it apart, just double check exactly what you have and make sure it's right. And then I'll show you how to easily fix it if it's still wrong. This is your spindle, this is your spindle here. So let's go ahead and put that in place. And there you go. If you have a laser instead, you would actually plug your wire, your lasering wire, into here, which we'll get to the whole wiring thing in a minute, but that's where they go on your boards. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in, and then I'm going to turn my machine around for you to see. Make sure I have enough room here. I'm going to go ahead and plug the power into it. By the way, make sure that you don't have any power on when you do that. You don't want your USB plugged into it, and you don't want your power plugged into it. You don't want anything plugged into it, because you don't want any power going to it as you're plugging and unplugging the equipment. So there's that. Let's go move this over now. Okay, so let me move you back to the desktop here. And so if you have a spindle or if you have a laser, I'm going to recommend you to follow this procedure to just do a quick, make sure your machine is set up for whatever you have. We'll get you up and running in just minutes. So we did our wiring, everything's correct. If you had a laser, you would have plugged the laser in instead of the spindle. We'll get to the wiring shortly. But I'm going to recommend you go ahead and download Laser Gerbil. If you don't already have it, it should be on the USB key. If it's not, go to lasergrbl.com, download the latest version, and install it. When you're done installing it, then go ahead and run the software. When the software comes up, you're going to need to know your COM port. So if you don't already have that, what you're going to do real quick is go to your Start button, go to start typing in Device Manager, and you'll see it'll come up. Click it. You're going to come down to your ports, and you're going to look for your CH340. I happen to have two devices connected. One is my 3018, and one is my my laser machine, my 6550. So in this case, I already know it's COM3. You may only have one, so you would choose whatever that is if it's COM3. If you already are past all this part, you can just kind of skip to the next area where we get to getting it connected. So you would drop this down, choose COM3, go ahead and click Connect. Now that you're connected, if these buttons do not highlight, what you're going to do is go up to Gerbil and then do Unlock, and it should unlock those buttons. So what we want to do is use this software to configure our machine and make sure that it's running properly. Whether we're going to use easel, or whether we're going to use light burn, or whether we're going to use laser Gerbil, we can use this machine to at least get you started with whatever, you know, whatever hardware you have on your machine. We're going to just configure the board. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and bring on my other screen here. Let me just make that a little bigger here. And so the first thing we're going to want to do is make sure the power is on your board, and make sure that you're connected, obviously. And then we're going to want to connect. And one thing I wanted to mention to you is, I'm going to disconnect. COM3, your baud rate, I've seen somewhere really high, I'm not sure why, but you're going to want to have it no more than 115/200. Click Connect, and then you should say Gerbil 1.1H. Yours might be different, but probably this one. And then that's it. So what we're going to do now is pretty much jog our controls. So let's move the board up. If we move this up, the board actually comes to us because the actual bit itself, actually, if you have this on here, I recommend you taking this off just for this. Make sure there's nothing on here. But and it's going to come this way because the actual bit pretty much is going to go that way, which is we pushed up, which is what we want. So we're going to click down. Also, one other thing is before I probably missed this I think is at 50 is the default. Let's move it down to 5 or 10 because we just want to move it a little bit so we can see the direction. So our Y-axis is good. Now let's check our X-axis. I'm going left and my machine is going right, which is the common problem out in our group lately. It seems our boards are not being sent with the correct settings. Really quick, easy fix. So our X-axis is incorrect, but our Y-axis is good. So here's what we're going to do. Let's go up to Gerbil, go to Gerbil Configuration, and here's all your settings for your board. If it doesn't have anything in here, click Refresh, and it reads everything from your board, and we want number 3. Pretty much this is what's going to set our directions. Mine is currently set at number 3. So our $3 is set at 3. I have a cheat sheet here, which I'm going to show you. Number 3 is set at 3. So basically, my Y-axis was good. I'm going to say my reverse axis was good, even though we haven't tested it yet. I'm going to say it was good. But let's just say these two we want to leave. But the yes under reverse X is incorrect because my left is not going left on the machine. So we want to change this one to no. So it happens to be right above it, where this one here is to no, and these two stay the same. So my number 3 should be 2. So really simple. Come back to laser Gerbil, come back to here, number 3 should be 2. Click 2, and I like to hit tab, and then you click write. That actually writes the configuration to your machine. Now, while we're right here, if you scroll down to 32, 32, do you have a laser on there? If you do, you want to put this to 1. And what that's going to do is it's going to stop the burn lines going from one place to another when it's not supposed to be burning. Because clearly, if you have a laser on there, you want this to have a laser. So again, change it to 1, click Tab, click Write, and it's going to write to your board. So if we close it, and we come here, Gerbil configuration, come back, our number 3 should be 2, and our laser mode should be enabled. So those are the 2 main things. So what we're going to want to do, I'm going to just change this real quick because I do not have a laser on mine currently. I'm going to write it, close it. So now that we've got that, let's come back to our machine and let's see how we're doing now. So now my up is still up, my y-axis, and my down is down. Now when I go left, my left goes left and my right goes right. So the number 3 changed it. One other thing while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and zoom into my fancy little camera here. Let's zoom in here a little bit. So what we're going to do now is let's turn on, if we go up to Gerbil and then we go to settings, we're going to come to jog control and we're going to check the box that says show the z-axis up and down, and then we're going to click save. What that does is, if you see here now, we have an up and down for our z-axis. So we want to test that. So we're going to make sure this is still at 5 because it's not much travel. And if your z-axis, which mine happens to be, I'm going to turn this sideways so you can see it, and I'm going to move this up. Oh, I love this new camera. And you don't want to jog down too far because you don't want to, you know, run into there. So, because we don't have limit switches yet. But so let's just move it up a little bit, move it down a little bit, and make sure that we can go up and down correctly. So now that we have our z-axis buttons, we're going to click it and make sure it goes up, which it does. And we're going to make sure it goes down, which it does. So it's good. So now we have our y-axis working, we have our x-axis working, we've got our z working. If you have a laser, there's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to show you right now, since I have a spindle in here, I'm going to show you how to just double check your spindle. So let's just check that real quick. It's really, really simple. If you come over here to your console, right here, we're still connected. All we're going to do is turn the spindle on and make sure that it turns. So we're going to type S100, so that's the speed, and space M3. And then we're going to hit enter. And if you notice, my spindle comes on, it's working, everything's good. You can just kind of, it's really slow. I wouldn't recommend putting your finger in there. You definitely don't want to have no bit in there at the moment. Just kind of make sure it's spinning the correct direction. And then you're going to type in M5 to turn it off. So right now, it's actually working perfect. We have all the axes correctly. Let me move back out here. We have everything left, right, up, down, spindle on, and we are good to go. Let me straighten that up. Okay, so now I'm going to just basically review with you the laser, I guess just different configurations. We've got the old laser, the new laser, we've got the 40 watt, we've got the 15 watt, we've got the new board and the old board. So let's try and make this as easy as possible. So Jim from support did an excellent job with this diagram. Let me change this here. Before you get into it, it looks confusing, let me explain to you. It's actually really easy. If you want to, you ignore this right hand side here just for a minute, okay? In this instance, I have a 3018 machine, okay? I have an old board. I have not changed my board. Just so we're going to go right through this process with you. Do you have an old board or do you have a new board? I have an old board. However, I did get a new laser. If you look at my machine here, I got my new 40 watt, which by the way, I absolutely love, and you really need to run over and grab a new one if you have not. But anyway, you probably got some different wires. If you did get this, or if you got a new laser, you probably got different sets of wires. Coming with it, you have a long wire, which is for the 6550, and then you have, sorry, moving the camera here, then you have a shorter wire, which is for the 3018. We're going to review the shorter wire real quick here. So the shorter wire has, if you look on my screen here, basically I said I have the old board and I got a new laser. So the 3018, if you look down here, the 3018, there is no old and there is no new for the board. There's only just one board. For the 6550, there is a new and an old. But for this instance, we're just talking about the 3018. So we've got the 3018, and I happen to have a new laser, and the wire diagram is number 3. So it's right here. So this is my wiring diagram. So Jim has made this really easy for you. Pretty much, do you have a new laser or do you have an old? If you have an old, you can use one of these. What this means is if you look at the wiring, and some of you may have some issues because the wiring unfortunately has come not pinned correctly, which is very frustrating. So I'm going to switch you over to the camera real quick and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Jim's diagram shows that we have your, let me move this out of the way here. If you look, let me see if I can move in. Oh yeah, I love this camera. Oh yeah. So if you look here, you've got the, mine is number 3, which happens to have my cables reversed. And I happen to have red, black, yellow, then I have red, yellow, black. So my black and my yellow are reversed. I hope you can see that. And so that they are reversed, that is correct. If yours are straight through, which would be this, if for whatever reason your shorter cables are straight through, like this here, so you have red, black, and yellow exactly straight through, then one of those pins need to be reversed. Tom has a video on how to do it. It's actually pretty easy. I've not done it. You take a little Q-tip. You take a little toothpick and you put it right in this little spot right here, in the little silver area. You just push it down lightly, and this pin should come, or this wire should come right out. And you do the same thing with the black, and then you switch them, and you don't have to do nothing afterwards. You just push it right in, it just snaps right in. Just be very careful when you push it in. You can use a, I've seen them use a toothpick. I've seen them use a little, like a paper clip. Some of them use other different things, but that's the quick fix. If for whatever reason your short cable is not crossed, or if you need to change that. Unfortunately, they have come that way sometimes, but mine is not, so I'm going to go ahead and hook this up. I'm going to zoom back out. Whoops. So in my specific instance here, I'm going to make sure my spindle's undone because I have to, before I do that, let me just show you one other thing here. On my 40 watt, if you got one of our new 40 watts, it's amazing, by the way. If you did not, you should. There is a color code right here. I'm not sure if you can see that or not. But what we're going to want to do is use the cable end here that matches it. So pretty much, we're going to plug this in, all the way in. And now I don't know if you noticed or not, but on the other side of it, there is a power switch. And now this turns on the laser power on top of the 40 watt. So now that we have that plugged in, let's go ahead and plug this into the, whoops, the circuit board here. Okay. So now that we have that in, I'm only going to put this here for example purposes. I'm going to lay this down and I'm going to face it away from me for safety purposes, and I have the spindle motor disconnected. So if you have yours sitting here, that's great. You can just follow the same example, which I'm going to show you. Make sure your wiring is correct. Of course, before you do any of it, make sure your power is disconnected, most importantly, and obviously not on. And then now that you're positive your wiring is correct, it is plugged in correct here and here, we're going to go ahead and lay it down, face it away from us, and turn the power on to the main board. If you notice, I have a green light, but I don't think it's on. So you push down, and the blue light comes on, which now represents that it is on, and you can hear the fan kicking in. We're going to keep it away from us. And so now let's go over, let me come back to my desktop. Actually, let me switch it back this way here for you so you can see. So now let's go over to Laser Gerbil. So now that we're in Laser Gerbil, what we're going to want to do is reconnect to that board again. And it should be already set at COM3, so we are connected. Now, remember we changed our setting for the left and right axis, and that's fine. And remember I said I had a spindle on mine. I did not want to turn laser mode on. Well, I do want to turn it on if I'm going to be using a laser. So if you have a laser on yours, then yes, you want to turn it on. Very simple way to do that. Again, let's go to Gerbil, Gerbil configuration. You're going to come down here to 32 where it says laser mode enabled, and you're going to do 1, hit tab, and click right. And yours will probably say changes, mine happens to already be 1, and then click close. And that is pretty much all you should have to do. Now, what we're going to want to do to test this is we're going to want to hit this turn off laser. If you don't have these custom buttons, I'll leave a link in the description to the custom buttons. And how you install them is really, really simple. After you download the buttons, they will be in your downloads folder. And you're simply going to come down here in the custom button area. Oh, let me move this out of here. You're simply going to come down here in your custom button area, and you're going to right click, and you're going to go to import custom buttons. And then you're going to navigate right to your downloads folder. And then you're going to choose the buttons that you downloaded. The version 2 is the latest. You're going to click open, and you're just going to click yes to everything. Pretty much yes, and all it's going to do is it's asking you, do you want to import these buttons down here, and you're going to say yes. None of these should be highlighted, but this laser should be highlighted here. Activated here. And that's all you need to do for that. So basically what this does is this turns your laser on and turns it off. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and change you over to my desktop. And I'm going to move this over here so you can see what I'm doing here. Now, this just pretty much turns it on at really, really low so that it can, if you right click and you go edit button, you then can change the actual power that it's going to be on. This one's only 1,000, it's not very much, but you can actually change it so that it can be lower or higher or whatever. In this case, basically what you're going to want to do is you will have a piece of wood here, which let me go ahead and put on there because I don't want to burn up stiff. Like so. And then when you click that laser button, it will turn your laser on and it will turn your laser off. Now you're going to need to adjust your your laser. If it's mounted in here, you're going to need to adjust it up and down and so forth. What I'm trying to get you to be is functioning, where your laser works, your y-axis works, your x-axis works, your z-axis, your spindle motor works. So we've got everything functioning now except the laser, and we just did that. Make sure your power is on, make sure the light is blue. We're going to turn on the test laser. It came on, and we're going to turn it right back off. So now we know we are functioning, everything is good to go. And pretty much you're straight. If you don't want laser mode on, you have to turn that back off. Remember, go to Gerbil and then Gerbil configuration. I realize some of you may be using easel or whatever, but this video is to get your machine functioning correctly with all the different features, whether it's a spindle or the laser or whatever. Okay, one last thing I want to show you real quick, and there may actually even be more coming right after this, but I've heard a lot of people say they cannot get their spindle to come on. Previous to this point right here, we actually did the S100 M3 and proved that the spindle is actually functioning correctly. No problem. We turned it off. Everything's working great. So the two things I recommend, the first thing doing is if you go up to a machine, making sure you put in your X and Y parameters. So your 3018 is 12 inches wide by 7 inches, I call it depth, high. If you change it to millimeters, it is actually 305 by 178. So in my case, I like inches because that's what I use. So the common problem with when you go to here, if you go to, well, mine's not on, but mine actually is 3. Click OK, it should go green. It did not. Oh, there it is. So one of the common things is when you click carve and you go to confirm, you go to this and you need to whatever, raise the bit, turn it on. When you click turn it on, it does not turn on. Here is usually why. If you come back and you come to machine and then you go to advanced, your spindle control needs to be automatic. By default, it's just manual, which means the software thinks you're turning it on, so it doesn't need to turn it on for you. So in this case, you want to change it to automatic, and then just click close. So most of the time, it's a simple fix like that that will make your spindle come on. So in this case, if you click carve, there's really nothing that I'm carving, but use new position, raise the bit, turn the spindle on. Is the spindle on? And you click yes. So I just want to throw that out there real quick. It's machine, advanced, make sure your spindle is on automatic, default RPM 9,000. I personally like to put 10,000 to get whatever I can out of it, but depending on what you're cutting, you might want less, but just make sure your spindle control is on automatic. And that's it.